Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight we have a doozy. The topic, why all the hate? Why do these bands get so much flack? Got a nice panel here. They're ready to talk about this topic. We want to hear from you down below. Why do they get all the hate? Let's do it. Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight's topic, why all the hate? Come on, why all the hate? Bands that get an unnecessarily amount of flack. Now, why do these bands get this flack? Well, I don't know, but we have a panel here that have brought to the table, well, they've got three picks. Hopefully, there's no crossover, but there might be, but that's okay. Why all the hate? I want to welcome the panel. Andrew, David, we've got Butch, and we've got the Parish. Gentlemen, how are you tonight?
Solid. How are you?
Real good.
Just peachy. Just peachy. Did you hear the news on the Triumph tour?
Yeah, it's all
I
out.
did.
Yeah.
No,
Our six-person power trio.
Well, I was listening to Eddie Trunk. We're already on a tangent, but I mean, I think they need help to pull this off. So, you know, they got Phil X playing. That'll be okay.
Is Jeff Matt with them and all of that?
It was basically, I think, isn't it basically the lineup, Butch, that they had at that hockey thing that they did?
Yeah, it's like Todd Kearns, who's awesome. I mean, he's a great player, and he can sing his ass off. So, and then, like you said, Phil X, and who's the drummer that's with them?
I don't know.
I forget. But those dudes, like, I think that a couple of those guys had their health issues or whatever. So it's not like Gilmore could be playing drums for a whole set, and then on top of that, singing. And same with, Mike Levine isn't going to. They're just not. I don't think they're in the same place health wise or playing wise as some of these other bands that are still touring. Like Rush is going back out, and they're just not there. They can't do it in the way that people would want for them to do it as a three-piece. So it makes sense to. It's better than just throwing the band out on the road and saying go play Triumph songs like some bands have done.
Yeah, we could have done a show on that.
When are they playing?
They're gonna start tour what? April or something? They put out a whole bunch of tour dates. It's pretty.
I think it starts intense. In May or April. It goes. It definitely goes into the last dates are in June. I think the last show might be in New York at Jones Beach.
So this could be interesting. So do they clash with the Bon Jovi dates? And if so, does that mean Phil X isn't going to be playing with Bon Jovi? And if Phil X isn't playing with Bon Jovi, does that mean somebody else might be?
These are questions we need to know down below.
Yeah.
Are they paired up with another band? Like, are they?
I don't know.
Not that I saw. It looks like it's just them. Like they always headline. So I don't know. I mean, they might. I haven't been to the venue at Jones Beach, but man, they might be overshooting their shot a little bit with where they think they can play, but I guess they'll find out once tickets go on sale.
Yeah, Jones Beach is pretty big. As far as amphitheaters go.
People might be ready for it. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that was the big news today, kids. Anyway, but we're here talking about bands that get hate.
No, we're talking about Triumph. We're changing the topic.
We'll just change the topic. What do you think of Triumph? What do you feel about this tour down below? We could always do that, but that would cause Andrew, who came up with this topic, a lot of.
I would.
Sorry.
Hurt. All right, Andrew, you came up with this topic. Why don't you take it away? I guess just do.
You want me to do all three, or we can do round robin?
I don't. Let's do all three, I guess.
Well, okay. First of all, the topic came up because it was inspired by the band Nickelback, who I don't actually like. But I always thought that it's funny that Nickelback gets such and like literally universally hated. And if you do like Nickelback, you like. If I actually was a Nickelback fan, I wouldn't tell you guys. I would hide that. But because they have such, and I don't understand why. I mean, I don't like them just because they sound like a lot of other bands that are of their, ilk. But I don't understand the amount of hate they get. So that's the whole kind of impetus behind this. So I've picked three that are three very different bands, except that I do think they get an unnecessary amount of flack. And so I'm going to start with the least known and the least popular, and we'll go to the most popular. And so first, I'm going to start with GTR.
Well, I can tell you why they get a lot of flack. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So GTR, for those of you that don't know, was kind of like a post-Asia pop prog supergroup with Steve Hackett and Steve Howe, and a singer, Max Bacon, who sounds an awful lot like Dennis DeYoung. But this album came out. I really liked this album, and actually, I put it on when I decided I was going to choose GTR. I still like this album. It's not a bad album. It's and I will say that it is better than both Yes's Big Generator and Asia's Astra, which would have been the two like Yes Steve Howe type albums that came out at the same time. And I really like Astra, and Big Generator is fine. Is it as good as Genesis or Genesis Invisible Touch? Maybe not, but it's I think it's a solid album. And here's the thing: this album gets crapped on all the time, including by members of GTR, by Steve Howe and Steve Hackett, who both like completely disown this album. When the Heart Rules the Mind is a really good song.
Great song.
Yes, it's a solid. Is it relayer? No, but it's a good pop song, and it's and The Hunter, written by Jeff Downs of Asia and Yes and the Buggles, is also a good song. And there's also Jekyll and Hyde is good. I don't listen to the naysayers. Pick up stream this album. Is the production terrible? Yes, it is.
Yes, it's hideous.
Yes, but the songwriting and obviously the guitar work is really good. The name of the band is, I mean, why would they have named the band this? It's so, but an unnecessary amount of hate.
I just thought they had a lot of filler on it. The production's horrible. It's not very proggy. It's not what people expected. I think it was just a cash grab. That's the way I look at it. I'd rather listen to Big Generator or the Asia record. I think those are better records. I just think I don't know. They were there for the paycheck, I think. I'm wrong. I don't know.
Isn't all music when you sign to a major label a cash grab? I mean, what commercial cachet did Steve Hackett have at that time that they were like, oh, if we do a project with Steve Hackett, that's going to draw in all kind of cash.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know what
Max Bacon.
I don't know.
The name that we did. Money will come rolling in now that Max Bacon, formerly of Bronze, will.
Max Bacon would have been a good replacement for Dennis DeYoung too in Styx. But I guess he kind of became reclusive. But the Hunter, the songwriting on this doesn't feel like a cash grab. Is there some filler? Sure. The Hunter is a good song.
Well, they could have just done an EP then.
Well, I guess. I don't know. It's not a bad album. It's, again, everyone check it out. GTR, which stands for guitar.
Let us know down below what you think about the GTR album, everybody. I want to hear everything that you have to say. So anyway, it's all good. All right. It's all good.
My next band is a band that gets cursed by a very brief amount of time that they were in a certain genre, and people forget about the rest of their catalog, which is really amazing. And actually, the brief amount of time they were in a certain genre isn't bad either. And I know Grant's going to agree with me. The Bee Gees. Bee Gees get cursed by their 2 years in disco, and it's only because of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack that they're so associated with. I'm actually holding up one of their disco albums with Tragedy which is actually a good album. I mean, even if you don't like disco, the songwriting is still really solid. Yeah. And here's the thing, it gets so unfairly, they get unfairly as a band associated with the disco era. They just dabbled in this, and like kind of like Kiss did, but maybe just a little bit longer. And they were on that soundtrack, and people forget the rest of their catalog. I mean, I know everyone knows this, but I just felt like it was really good to put this in, because when people don't like disco, the Bee Gees and all that, no, you shouldn't say the Bee Gees. I mean, you can say Donna Summer or say Shaka Khan, not the Bee Gees.
Well, yeah.
But the Bee Gees were actually the biggest selling disco act of the 70s.
I think that, and that's why they get associated with disco so much. But it's because of that soundtrack. It's because of the Saturday Night Fever sound.
It's interesting. Good. It is interesting, though, Andrew, because it must depend where you are in the world, because the Bee Gees get no flack over here at all. They're held in pretty high esteem, and maybe not quite as high as the Beatles or Queen, but not far off it. So in the UK, they are held. As I say, they're certainly not a band that get a lot of hate over here.
Well, I wish that was the case over here, but I swear people will always associate disco with the Bee Gees, and they'll tie the two together, I think, really unfairly.
I think it's kind of softened, though, because I remember there was a lot of backlash when I was in middle school and stuff. When I was a kid, there seemed to be a lot more backlash against it. And now I think the Bee Gees seems to be, I think people have softened from that point of view. Because I think their whole catalog, they never put out a bad record. Even those later records are good.
No, like Paying the Price of Love and stuff, yeah. It's good.
Mm-hmm. I got given for a Christmas present for my elder brother, Saturday Night Fever, and I disliked it so much I took it down to the second-hand store and swapped it for Kiss Alive 2.
I mean, I don't. Do you remember?
But now I quite like them.
Okay, Parrish, do you remember? So they did an interview. It was in the UK, and I don't remember who it was with. And Barry Gibb actually stands up and walks out of the interview.
That's a tremendous interview.
Clive Anderson.
Yeah. And that kind of wraps this up, right? Because he was calling them tossers and all sorts of things based on basically their disco reputation.
Yeah, but Clive Anderson's, who was the interviewer, his career tanked after that, because most of the people who watched it thought he was totally out of order.
When I saw that clip, he was totally out of order.
Yeah.
But if you want to see them in a different light, watch clips on YouTube of Kenny Everett doing impersonations of the Bee Gees. And he really takes it out of them. This would have been 1981, 82. And then on one of the shows, they actually come on and sing with him after him taking the piss out of them. Yeah. So that kind of shows they do have a sense of humor.
And I think that even when they walked off the interview, it wasn't even like they were being, hotheads or anything. I think I mean, he was being such a jerk to them.
He was, yeah. I mean, that was kind of his thing, but yeah. I mean, his career tanked after that.
Well, good.
All right, cool.
My last band, I'm going to say specifically for this audience, because I've read the Contrarians comments when I've been on, and it's a band that is amazing, that gets unfairly a lot of flack, a lot of times because of how people feel about their lead singer. And that band, of course, is the genius of U2.
Did I not know? This was coming.
So, and I don't even know why everyone hates Bono so much. He just wants to. Just because he wants to do good things and save the world. But it's you shouldn't miss the music because you don't like Bono. The music is incredible. It continues to be incredible. Even the later albums are really good. U2's weakest moment I'll say U2's weakest moment is better than Bon Jovi's best moment, and it's you can the music is something you can immerse yourself into, and no one has yet been able to explain to me why U2 gets the amount of hate it does. I understand the Apple Music thing when everyone got the free album downloaded on their phone without the masking.
2014.
But okay, don't you think we're really squeezing the last drop out of first world problems with that? Like oh my God, U2 gave me a free album and we're so angry. I mean, it seems like that's a silly reason to hate the band. But
To me,
yeah, that's
when it
definitely
started. I think that's when it started when
No.
they pushed that out, or was it before?
No, I think it was before. I think people, I mean, you had like Bob Goldthwait making fun of Bono with the white flag and stuff in the 80s. I mean, then
My wife is long can't stand U2, and we were talking about it, and she says it's not the music. She's like, it's Bono. You know why? She's like, it's Bono. She's like, and the way she describes it is, she said he just always comes across as being so pleased with himself. I don't have hate for Bono, by the way, or U2. This is just a discussion that we have about them, because I do like them, and they're one of those bands I just know better than to put on the stereo when we're sharing space.
And I understand that, and Bono definitely comes across as like sometimes he can be smug and cocky and things like that. But why don't people have a problem with other smug, cocky rock stars? I mean, there's a lot of them out there.
Most of them.
Including a lot of bands that we talk a lot about on this show. I mean, Ian Gillan is a pretty cocky guy. Bruce Dickinson is a pretty cocky, smug guy. And, they don't get nearly the amount of flack. So, yeah.
But I think that's because they don't tell people what to do. They don't tell them to go out and save the world. They don't preach.
Mm-hmm. He preaches.
And if
Roger Waters does.
Yeah, but
he gets a lot of shit, though.
Yeah,
that's true.
But Roger Waters doesn't care.
Yeah.
But I mean, the nearest comparison is Bob Geldof from the Boomtown Rats, and he gets as much flack as Bono does. So there's definitely something about, and I think that's why certain people don't like it. Other people love that, don't they? I mean, that's half their fan base think he, not just because of the music, but because of the politics and the appeal of it. So, I think it does polarize people's views. If you want music to be just music, then maybe that somebody like Bono winds them up.
And I think that wasn't there a period of time, you don't see that so much anymore, but I just remember there was a period of time, you'll have to refresh my memory, but it just seemed like everywhere you would turn, there'd be Bono making a comment, Bono on TV, Bono hobnobbing with a world leader. There was just this time period where it seems like there was just an overabundance of Bono. That's what I remember. I don't see that so much now, but
no. Well, I mean, he's old now too. I mean, who do you think is more divisive, Bono or Ted Nugent?
Well, I mean, Ted is, but he's not near the celebrity that Bono is. So in the overarching scheme of things, Bono's way more out in the. Ted's like a forgotten. His career hasn't really, Martin would be mad about it, but Ted's career has mattered since the 70s, and he hasn't made a great record since probably Scream Dream, and
probably
so
yeah.
Martin would disagree, though. He likes a lot of.
That's what I mean. He likes a lot of those records. I mean,
the 80s ones.
But Ted Nugent isn't the world star that Bono was. I mean, Bono probably at one point was along with Prince and Michael Jackson, was the biggest star in the world, wasn't he?
Yes.
So he had a platform that something like Ted Nugent never had, and certainly didn't have in the 80s or 90s. So. Totally different level. I think.
Totally different, yeah.
On par with Phil Collins?
He was bigger than Phil Collins.
Even in the 80s, Phil Collins,
I'm talking about around the world as a presence, as a celebrity. I don't think Phil Collins ever hit quite that celebrity status.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Phil never pissed anybody off either, so.
He gets an unusual amount of flack, though.
He did with some of those songs. But anyway, that's another story.
I don't know. When I think of that level of celebrity and sort of the polarization of the politics interconnecting with the music, I think of like a Springsteen, right? At the Bono level, somebody who's sort of super all of that household name. I mean, anywhere in the world, right? Stadiums, and is also super polarizing when it comes to intervening the politics and the music, right?
Right.
But I think what's interesting about you too is that, you know, here we are, how many years down the line, and they still have relatively the same four members, right? I mean, this is a band that Bono's such a bad guy. He's certainly sharing the wealth enough to where you've got, I mean, how many bands can we name that have this type of success and this type of longevity and haven't really lost a member? I know the drummer's been in and out, but I think it's medical and so forth. But I think that there are very few, if any, bands of this stature and longevity, whether you like them or not, right, that have been able to keep the core band together and, you know, work through whatever the creative stuff, the financial stuff. And so I think that's sort of remarkable in and of itself.
Yeah, for 50 years. I think the Springsteen comparison is really good too, though. Why do you think Springsteen is immune to the flack that Bono gets? Because they both
no, he gets. I've heard people
don't know that he
complain about it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a big Springsteen fan of the music, right? And you know, but I think I don't really try to get into the politics side of things, but I think I feel like he gets a lot of flack, particularly because he immerses himself and he injects himself into American politics, right? So and so you're gonna meet, especially right now when everything is so divisive that it's, you know, these elections are so close, it's like 50-50 and it feels like anymore. And so you got any given time, you got half the population that hates him for his politics because he's front and center.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Well, those are my three.
Excellent picks. Excellent, Andrew. All right, let's throw it over to Butch. Butch, what are your three picks?
All right, man. Like I said earlier when we were talking, I feel like this is a really hard topic, and I was struggling to come up with. First of all, some of the bands I immediately thought of, I don't even like. So it's not that I hate them, but, you know, like Andrew mentioned Nickelback, and I do think that a band like Nickelback or like Disturbed, who's kind of like a guilty pleasure, but I'm not a big fan. Like I feel like they get pounded on. I almost feel like the thing with Nickelback is it just became like a meme in a way. It was just like, it's one of those things that just caught on and it became a shorthand. I don't think it's so much that even people that say, you know, when you rip on each other and say, oh, you like Nickelback, and, you know, use that as a pejorative, or you're a Nickelback fan, Nickelback sucks, like all of that. I don't even think half those people hate Nickelback as much as they say. I just think it's part of the lexicon now to like, they're the most successful out of a lot of those kind of bands, like Creed, and who I think is infinitely worse than Nickelback. Three Doors Down. I mean, all those bands that are interchangeable, like Stained and Days of the New and all that kind of like garbage.
90s rock.
But like late 90s, like late 90s post grunge, but still grunge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the corporate grunge thing, but I'm getting off track anyway. Like, so I initially thought of bands like that, but the first one I came up with, I don't have any visual aids here, but
that's all right.
For me, like one of the ones that, and actually I can see this from the perspective of the people that don't like them, because in the beginning I was one of them, and that's Ghost. Ghost. Before I knew what was going on with that band, they kind of came from out of nowhere, and they came out through the doom metal scene. Like one of their first shows was the Hammer Doom Festival over in Germany. You know, a festival that my band had played back in like 2012, and they came out of that, and then all of a sudden it was like they were just blowing up. You know, like they had like. And it came out, it was one of those things where like you could tell there was like money behind it, like pushing them. And they kind of had that that everyone knows the image that they have, the whole evil Pope thing, and not want people to know who was in the band. They're building up a mystique and stuff, and so it became like this thing. Like they caught on with people, so you know how it is. Once a band catches on, and because they came out through the metal scene, Ghost never came out and said we're the heaviest metal band that ever lived, or we're metal and we're going to shove metal down your face and up your ass. But people like metalheads, like, just did you either like them or you hated them when they came out. And I was in the, for a while, I think up till Meliora, the third record, I was in the band, I don't like these guys camp. It seemed fake to me. It seemed phony. And I think a lot of people felt that way at the time. But behind all of this image and stuff, I mean, first of all, they're great songwriters. Tobias is a great songwriter. I think, and it's not like the guy isn't talented. Like, he has a history behind him too, with Repugnant, and I'm trying to think of he actually did some recordings under I forget the name of the project, but there are some things that aren't it's closer to pop isn't the right word, but it's not hard rock.
I think you could use really the term pop. I mean, think about Ghost though, but they're a perfect blend. It's like metal hooking up with ABBA. That's what you get as Ghost.
Yeah, I mean, they're right. If they're one of these bands like Volbeat. I mean, they write great songs. Period. And they're out there, and I haven't gotten to see them yet, and I'm dying to see them live because I love that. They're not in my top 100 bands of all time or anything, but I love the fact that there's a band that for a while was able to keep that mystique going, and they're bringing a show out into arenas. They're a rock band, and whether we agree that they're metal or not, there's no denying that they're a rock band. They're a guitar-based rock band that's out there in arenas doing what very few bands can do. Most bands are playing clubs still, or big theaters at the most. I just saw Queensryche a couple weeks ago. They're playing in a theater, and Ghost is playing in arenas and filling them. And they're putting on a show. I mean, it's one of those things, you see where the money's going when you go to see them. They're giving people something to see. And all that aside, if they took the makeup off and played in, scaled it back and whatever, I think the songs stand up pretty well. And I think over time, people have caught on a little bit more with the songs, as they've gotten as they dip more into that eight. When they first came out, it was kind of like that mix of BOC meets, you had that Merciful Fate element without being that heavy, with the pop, element to it. As they've gone on, a lot more of that 80s AOR kind of thing is filtered through. And I think people are it's just catchy stuff that they took so much. There was so much guff. I sound like I'm 154 instead of 50.
My dad used to say guff sitting on the front porch.
By gum, I'm not going to stand for all the guff that Ghost has been taking. But Ghost is the first one I
do you think, Butch, though, some of it is because of their no phones at the gigs? I've seen so much flack by people complaining about that.
That was such a good idea.
I get it. I understand exactly why they say it, but I've seen a lot of people complaining on Twitter and online, on YouTube.
Yeah, I think there's
about how dare they stop me.
Yeah, I think there's bands that do, Shirley Manson is an example of that. And there's these people that do stuff that makes no sense. The phone thing actually makes more sense than being pissed about a beach ball, or Bruce Dickinson being pissed off about someone smoking a cigarette at a show. Although as a singer, I get it. You don't want people blowing smoke in your face, whatever. Or people smoking pot at the show. It's dude, where have you been for years and years? You're going to take the time to stop the show to bitch at someone in the crowd because they're smoking dope, or because someone's got a beach ball. It's lighten the fuck up. I don't care if you wanted to be Susie Sue or whatever. It's just a beach ball. It goes back to any concert I've ever been to. There's been a goddamn beach ball or a frisbee or something. It's not hurting anyone. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Ghosts, maybe I know
Especially
the phone thing definitely pisses people off, and they're not the only band that's tried to do it. And I've seen other bands do things that are similar that I think are weird, like seeing Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson telling people they were playing, I forget which album it was, but they played the whole thing through as their first set. They didn't want you weren't allowed to clap. Don't make any noise or clap during the set. Save it for the end. So there's weird things that bands do. So yeah, that's probably part of it with them.
I saw April
Good.
Wine on Saturday, and I couldn't have my phone out.
I mean, you want to take a picture of those guys?
I filmed a little bit. Then
Yeah.
I got shut down, and they kept coming back out. No. The only other time that I saw it that bad was when I saw King Crimson several years ago. And Robert Fripp they'll tell you right up front, nothing, and they'll throw your ass out if you start doing it. But April Wine. April Wine.
I was at a Wasp show 20 years ago or something at club, and it was like small club, and like they had people like going through the audience. Like you break a phone out, like they're throwing you out. Like Blackie was throwing people out of like literally like maybe a 700 person club. Like it was like they were in force. Like the phone comes out, they're walking people out the door. Like it was serious.
Blackie's become a douche.
Yeah, I thought Ghost actually did that really well. I saw them in Tampa, and the way they did it, and you put it in a bag, and it wasn't like you didn't have to have Tobias yelling at people or people going through. And I thought it actually worked really well. I didn't hear any complaints about it, and honestly, I feel like everyone enjoyed the show more because they were actually watching the show, not watching the show via their screen. And I will say this about Ghost. Ghost has brought back something where when a Ghost album comes back out, it's exciting. You sit with the album, you read the notes, you look for the secret messages in there, you look at the mythology, and that hasn't been something in quite some time. And I give Ghost so much credit for that. And yeah, the songwriting is really good, and without even all the mystique. I mean, He is a good song, whether it's sung by a satanic pope or not. It's just a really good song. And so yeah, I don't know why Ghost would get any flack. I mean, they're bringing so much back to just kind of that pop cultural realm of music. And yeah, I mean, no one should get hung up at whether they're metal. They've never actually really been metal. I mean, they've been blue, as you say, Blue Oyster Cult is
metal adjacent
at most. Yeah.
Just hard rock. I'm just going to say that. There's a lot of pop in them, though. Man, you can
that last album was on hair metal.
A lot of ABBA and
crazy amount of hooks and catchy stuff and vocal melodies.
Square Hammer, though, the best riff. Can you imagine after all these years? What a great riff. You know, there are still riffs out there, and that's one of the best riffs in the past 10 years, I'd say. God, that's a great song. Amazing.
So I don't know if this is good or bad, but they describe themselves as the Def Leppard for the 21st century.
Well, there's a lot of Def Leppard
in
there too.
Yeah, well, Joe Elliott sang "Spillways" on said they did a single.
Oh, he did,
yeah. Joe Elliott, yeah,
that's true.
All right.
Well, I like them. I like Ghost a lot better than anything Def Leppard did post Pyromania. So
yeah, me too.
We're never going to get through
for the most part.
Kids.
Sorry, I'll keep the next two as quick as I can.
We're just yapping. It's more fun to have It's more fun just to have a discussion, though. I'm just saying. Anyway, go ahead.
The next one, I have a few on my list. The next one I had, I'll just mention these guys because I thought about it while I was thinking of another band that I was gonna throw on here, and a band that and this is why I came to this one through the Nickelback thing, kind of, in that this is a band that is definitely unnecessarily categorized as lame and it's because of pop culture, and it's because of Beavis and Butthead, and that's Winger. you will not find
There it is.
a collection of musicians that's that as good as those guys together, that play like the way that they play, that sing like Kip sings, and that wrote great songs for the most part. I mean, the second record fell off a little bit for me, but have been pretty consistent with their material. And it's not like they ever they got a couple ballads that were hits, but who didn't that played that style at the time? And it's not like they ever like went off the cliff like some bands did and went totally like get wimpy. Like the musicianship was always top notch, the writing was strong. The stuff is pretty. I mean, they went with Pull. They went back and made like the heaviest record probably that they ever did, and every record since then has been like fairly rocking. And they just got like, I know like the videos did them a great disservice, I think, with Kip kind of dancing around, but it was the time period.
Everybody was dancing around.
I mean, but I mean, like people like see that stuff, and then they see that get picked on. Like the nerd kids get the winger shirt on Beavis and Butthead, and Lars is throwing darts at Kip Winger's picture. And I mean, I get it. It in a way it personifies like the whole like the old back in the 80s, like the metal, the thrashers and the kids that were into like real metal, and then like I straddled these worlds. Like I was into like hair metal, and I was into thrash, and all I could go from Celtic Frost to Poison. So, and Celtic Frost went from Celtic Frost to Poison, and so I get it where it's coming from. But man, for it to like have basically like put the nails in the coffin of their career, it's just like, man. I mean, those guys took a whole lot of flack, and still I think people like kind of like use them as a like a shorthand for what was wrong with hair metal. When I get it visually, some of it, but musically I think they're above a lot of that.
Didn't they come late in the era
Fairly
of hair
late,
metal? Because that's what screwed
88.
them. Yeah, that was too late, and things were gotten way out of control by then.
They fell the same time period as Slaughter, who also got kind of an unfair amount of slack, I thought. But
well, I mean, Winger actually got bigger like earlier than Slaughter, even because Slaughter was still Mark and those guys were still playing with Vinny at that. Winger's first album came out like what, 87 or 88?
87.
87. So and then it took a little bit, but then it took off.
They predated Slaughter. I mean, they had two pretty good records. I mean, both of them were certified, right? I mean,
they had big hits off both records.
Sold well. Both of them had hits. I mean, obviously, like most bands of the era, their hits were the ballads, which drove the
Miles Away, and
didn't help. But I mean, all the bands of the era that had platinum records largely were driven by ballads, right? But yeah, I mean, they predated Slaughter by a bit, but I think sort of maybe they're not as musically talented as like a Warrant, but I sort of, from a timeline perspective, they're sort of, they sort of line up with Warrant, right? By the time Warrant's getting around to their third record, which is Dog Eat Dog, which is heavier and darker, no one cares anymore. And so it's kind of like the timing alignment is a little bit like that, right? By the time Pull comes out, there's no audience for it, even though it's probably the hardest, darkest record, and had that come out earlier, maybe there's a different trajectory for both those bands. I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree with
did
that.
you say Winger wasn't as talented as Warrant?
No, the reverse. I said Warrant doesn't have the same level. Warrant,
got it. I heard you wrong.
I was making a comparison, but I wanted to be clear.
I got you.
That Winger's level of musicianship and talent was, no slight to the Warrant guys, but I mean the Winger guys. I mean Dixie Dregs and all of the.
Agreed.
Winger's been nominated for a Grammy in the classical category. I mean, their talent is probably above and beyond most of the bands of that era. Their collective talent, I think, which is, it's such a shame considering how they're looked at. I mean, from a talent perspective, they're head and shoulders above most of their peers. Indeed.
Yeah, for sure. So that's my second one, and then we might as well get this one over with and talk about it. But I'm just gonna go out there and say they've never been there's always been an inordinate amount of mouth breathers that just come out of the woodwork anytime something controversial is in the news about them, and that's Kiss. And whatever, whether you like them or not, whether you're mad at them that they did X, Y, and Z, or Gene said this, or Paul did that, or you don't like that they replaced these guys, or whatever you're, now the latest controversies and stuff. I'm not getting into politics, but for people to come out and say, like, it's always made me laugh, like, for people to come out and say that a band that I understand without the, we won't know. Without the image, would they have caught on? Maybe not. I also think without the image, people would be like holding up those records the way they hold up Sir Lord Baltimore albums. Like those first 3 Kiss albums have like some of the heaviest riffs on them. And they're not maestros. They're not Richie Blackmore. But they certainly aren't like total scrubs on their instruments like people want to portray. And and for a band who supposedly had no song, I got some dude was getting into it, some guy, over some of the lyrics. He was citing lyrics from Going Blind. Of all the Kiss songs to pick, you're going to go with that instead of Burn, Bitch, Burn. Okay.
Well, at least go with Plaster Caster. Grab a hold of me faster.
It's just like their lyrics are in line with like what a lot of bands of their ilk were doing at the time. And so I know there's just this long-standing idea that somehow like a gimmick band has managed to put together a career that's lasted 50 plus years and has like a zillion gold and platinum records, that's played the biggest as well as some of the smallest when they were down in the dumps career-wise. But just the vitriol, I think, really of people that hate Kiss is like, and that includes some of the Kiss fan base. They get it squabble with each other, too. So it's like, and I just think it's. I mean, Gene Simmons seems like, I haven't met him. He seems like a dick to me. He probably is. He's definitely arrogant. But I don't know, man. I mean, to say that they can't play their instruments at all, or that they can't write, or I mean, it's all a matter of. It's all subjectivity, or that they wouldn't have lasted without the. I mean, they weren't the only band that, Alice Cooper beat them to the punch with makeup and band. Bowie. Would Bowie not be around if he didn't do the Ziggy Stardust thing? His career was he's certainly not much of a career before that.
No.
The Alice Cooper group was shocking. That was part of what drove them. Cheap Trick had a interesting image that, there's every band that is successful has some sort of gimmick somewhere, whether it's, Kiss is obviously way over the top with it. But I mean, a band that changed like the face of the concert industry in a lot of ways, like in terms of the show that you'll see, like every band you see with a huge show, like you can go back and go back to the Kiss Alive and like Destroyer era and Love Gun and see like a lot of that shit that they were doing is, shows just got bigger from there. I don't know. For me, I'm a Kiss fan. I've often said I'm an apologist in a lot of ways, but I just think they get unnecessarily bashed for the music, and a lot of people like the music, and a lot of people have different favorite songs, which if you get 100 people in a room that are Kiss fans and you ask them their favorite Kiss song, I guarantee like there's going to be a lot of different ones, which tells me that a lot of the songs hit home with people, and they might not get played on the radio, but it's not like they were like Rock and Roll All Night and Beth, and then that's it. Or they get called a disco band for having one disco song on Dynasty, unless you sure know something if you want to make it 2. Or Dirty Living. But neither, sure know something, I think, falls less disco than the other two. But, Ace's songs rock hard on there. Gene's songs it's not a disco album. But, again, they do a disco song, and that's they went disco in 79. Angel did a disco song.
So
No
the
one talks.
Stones.
Yeah,
Everybody did it.
That's one of the greatest songs. Rod Stewart's "Do You Think I'm Sexy" is one of the best songs he ever did. There are some great rock disco songs out there.
Yeah.
You
All
know,
right.
the Revenge album kind of proves that Kiss would have still been big and good without the gimmick. I mean, Revenge, we're talking 10 years past the gimmick, and that's such a good album and was a well-received album and all of that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, they had success. It wasn't the success that the other bands of their kind were having in the 80s. Gene Simmons was absent for a lot of what was going on. He just kind of showed up. I think those records would have stood a better chance if he had his mind on the band, but they were still competing in a lot of ways. They're still in all the magazines. You know, they had no makeup on, they had bombs, and that was about it.
They just said smoke bombs. Fire.
Smoke bomb, yeah.
All right.
Fire!
I accept Kiss. I don't have any problem with Kiss though. All right, let's keep moving. I guess I'll throw it over to the Parish. He's next to you. I'm just going to loop around. Parish, what's your 3?
Sorry, Parrish, I talk too much.
No, that's right. I feel like this is sort of like a rock version of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm Parish.
I shouldn't have talked about Triumph in the beginning. Damn it.
Before I go on to my list, I just want to put it out there that I like Three Doors Down, and I like Creed, and I even like Nickelback. So I think Silver Side Up by Nickelback is a good album. I don't like much else by them, and I fully understand why people don't like them, because their lyrics are crude, and I think that they play to the lowest common denominator on some of their later albums. But I think Silver Side Up, it's a really good rock album. And How You Remind Me, I think, is a really good rock song. So there you go. That's me getting my confessions out there before I start on my list.
God bless you, Parish.
I probably
True
won't be
confessions
invited
with the
back.
Parish of Rock.
I won't be invited back now to the Contrarians. This is it. This will be
This
my
might
last
be
show.
it, Parish.
This could be it. So I came about this in a different approach, and the reason I came about it as a different approach is there are certain bands that if I say I talk about them and I say I like them, either on the Contrarians or I do it on YouTube and your show, Grant, or I put it on Twitter and X, and I always get stick if I like these bands. And I have to say, the stick is quite respectful. It's not, and some of it's quite funny, actually. But nonetheless, I know which bands I like that I hated. But what I found interesting was in November, as part of Record Day, in the UK, they published the top 10 selling rock albums of the 21st century in the UK.
All right.
And it was how many bands on that list. When I say I like them, I get abuse for liking them. So I've decided the 3 bands, in fact, I have more than 3, but the 3 bands I'm going to run with are 3 bands that have got top-selling rock albums of the 21st century in the UK. So my first band is Green Day. So Green Day, American Idiot, is the best-selling rock album in the UK of the 21st century.
Really?
Wow.
Yep.
I would never have thought that.
2.5 million sold in the UK. 6 million sold in America. 16 million sold across the world of that one album.
All
Now, I know why people don't like them. I mean, I think pop punk, generally people don't like. It's not proper punk. It's kind of like artificial punk. So the people who like punk don't like it. Pop punk, yeah. So, or punk pop, whichever way you want to put it. So punk rockers don't, people who really like punk rock don't like it. And people, and think it's artificial. And I think there's they get a lot of flack because of that. I think there's probably a bit of overexposure as well, particularly with American Idiot and Dookie. Those songs, even now, certainly in the UK, they're all over the radio, rock radio. They play those a lot. I think Billy Joe Armstrong is a bit of an arsehole. And that comes across.
Well,
So-
he's
so you
very
can try-
opinionated. Let's say that.
Very opinionated. But they've been together for 35 years, same lineup. Oh, yeah, and if you've got a drummer called Trey Cool, that kind of puts you off him a bit as well, doesn't it? That kind of gives... It's a bit like having a guitarist called The Edge, really, and it kind of puts you off. So.
Yeah, kind of.
So I get that. But as I say, 35 years, same lineup. 14 albums in total, some of the best-selling albums of the last 25 years. And certainly in the UK, they come over here nearly every year, and they either headline a festival or they'll do a stadium tour. So I saw them at Download, which is Donington last year. Year before they sold out Wembley Arena. Year before that, they sold out London Arena, which is nearly as... Sorry, not Wembley Arena, Wembley Stadium. So Wembley Stadium, 65,000 sold out. London Stadium, about 55,000 sold out. So they're absolutely huge over here. And I've seen them in Barcelona. I've seen them in Germany. They're huge in Europe. I don't know how big they are in the States, to be fair, but absolutely massive. But if I ever mention that I like Green Day, I get a load of flack. So that's my first one. The second one, I know that you're going to be with me on this one, Grant.
I
So
know.
the
I
next
know what
one
you're
who's on
talking
that
about.
list, the next one on the list is The Darkness. So The Darkness have the third best-selling rock album in the UK of the 21st century. And yet I get a lot of flack from people for liking
Really?
The Darkness. Yeah. And it's because people think they're a
Love The
novelty
Darkness.
band, they're a joke.
I love
They
that.
don't like
Love 'em.
Justin Hawkins' vocals.
Love
They don't
it.
like Justin Hawkins. Another
Love Justin
opinionated...
Hawkins. Love it.
Yeah, but he's opinionated. He's out there, isn't he? I mean, he was in, he was a real old school rock star with the drugs and the booze and said a lot of things that perhaps, well, he says by his own admission, which he's never said them. So I get again why people don't like The Darkness, but a bit like Green Day, brilliant live, excellent musicians. They've got to have something going for them when they've got the son of Roger Taylor as their drummer.
Yep.
From Roger Taylor from Queen, that his son's their drummer, so that's got to be going for him. And actually, when you listen to the music, and if you can get over his vocals, which I have no problem with, AC/DC meets Queen meets Guns N' Roses. Now, in most cases, if you describe that with a band, people would be a bit like you just did, Butch. They'd be nodding. They'd be going, "Yeah, that's good." So There's something about them. I think they're kind of a Marmite band. I think they're one of these bands people either love or hate, and I think a lot of it's for the reasons I've said. But yeah, I get a lot of flack when I talk about liking The Darkness. I get quite a few people liking, agreeing with me, but I get a lot of flack.
I remember
And the
when,
last one.
well, when Permission to Land came out, I heard it, and it was like one of those moments where I thought, oh my God, who is this? I didn't expect anything like this to come out. It was refreshing. It was hooky. The production was great. And for that, I couldn't believe that what I was hearing. And I was just like, it gave me I thought rock and roll's on its way out, but no, look, The Darkness are carrying that torch. The 70s, early 80s are here. Love it.
And what is it? 8 albums later, they haven't done a bad album. So, but I'd go back to Green Day and I would say, here's a band that is still out there bringing kids into liking rock music, new audiences coming along, a real rock star leading them as well. So it's interesting how I think a lot of it's to do with age as well. I don't get younger people complaining about these bands. It tends to be people of my age complaining about these bands. So maybe there's an age thing there as well.
Probably.
And then the third one I'm going to go with is My Chemical Romance. So I nearly went with Fall Out Boy, but I've spoken about them quite a bit on this show, on the Contrarians, and I always get flack over that.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd go with a different emo band. So My Chemical Romance. So again, I get why a lot of people don't like him. Maybe it's a generational thing. I get the whole emo thing was a bit negative. I know Gerard Way's voice and maybe even his image can wind people up. Although I have to say, somebody who can create the umbrella society's got to have something going for him, in my view. I don't know if you've ever seen that program, but I think pretty cool. But again, another really good live band, great front man. And welcome to the Black Brigade Parade, which is the 6th best-selling rock album in the UK of the 21st century. I think is an absolutely brilliant album. It's a concept album about a man dying of cancer. Doesn't sound that I'm not selling it, am I? With the concept. But anyway,
sounds like I want to go out and get it.
Yeah. I mean,
I've already got it. Parrish, I've got that record, I think.
And interestingly, it is a bit of a barrel of laughs when you listen to the actual music. And there's elements of punk, there's elements of grunge, there's elements of power pop. It's hugely influenced by Queen. I can hear so much Queen on that album. And I 4 million sold in the US of that album, 1 million sold in the UK. So I think My Chemical, and they reformed about 4 years ago. They're back over to the UK next summer in their first UK tour since they've reformed, and they're filling out stadium. So those are my three.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that they got flack.
And My Chemical. Oh yeah, I get a lot of flack for liking My Chemical Romance.
I've got 3 cheers for Sweet Revenge and the Black Parade. I'm gonna have to re-listen to them because they only put out 4 records, though, right?
4 records, and I'd say the last record's pretty good as well. Danger Days is really good.
I'll have to re-listen to it, but I don't remember getting. They were a band that got flack, at least here in the States, maybe in the UK.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe it's different parts of different places. I don't know, but I mentioned My Chemical Romance before, and I've got a lot of flack on YouTube. Right. So
I always thought that they were kind of I think people kind of liked them over here. I don't know.
And then just to go through the rest of the list, it's quite interesting. The rest of the top 10, you got 2 Linkin Park albums, a Limp Bizkit album, 2 Nickelback albums, Muse, and Effervescence. So that's the list. And I would say, with the probable exception of Muse and the possible exception of Effervescence, all the rest of those bands get a load of flack if I mention them on YouTube or Twitter. So there you go.
Cool. All right, David, you're up. Thanks, Parrish. Appreciate it.
All right. So I'm going to thank Butch for taking Kiss off my hands and got me going for 30 minutes defending Kiss. So since he's done that already,
2 birds with 1 stone.
I'll get all the negative comments underneath. I'll just beat on me.
So thanks for that. So I think I'm going to start with a band that's maybe the most popular band of my list, and I guess I'm going to steal maybe a little bit of the. Maybe I've been doing these a little too long, so I think I might steal a little bit of Martin's vibe, and it's really more of a group and not a band. I mean, the band sort of represents a group or an idea. I think so. I'm going to start with Metallica, and I think they get a ton of hate, and I think that and so I really put them in this group of bands that when you have it, and I think there's a psychological element to this where there's people that got in on the ground floor that when something blows up that you were there at the beginning, it's hard for for some people to want to be part of it. Like if you got into Metallica at the Ride the Lightning era, and now there's T-shirts at Hot Topic, it's difficult. They're not my band anymore. Like my band was that band. I was doing Kill 'Em All, and everybody, I was in this niche and I had this thing and I knew about it first, and now they're, doing whatever, load and reload and all. I don't get that anymore. There's too much evolution, and I think there's sort of, when bands get really big, there's a sort of the detractors become louder, right? And so Metallica is still playing stadiums. Someone's buying tickets. As loud as the detractors are out there about Metallica and how they're terrible and they can't do anything right anymore, that they died after Master of Puppets, maybe Justice, like the fact remains that they're as popular as ever. They're and as we talk about some of the other bands, I think about on this list I had bands like U2 and I had like a Nickelback. I mean, they're still playing arenas. They go, they play, they sell out. There's a lot of people. I'm not a big Nickelback fan, but they're big, and yet there's this loud, sort of backlash against them. Ghost, I got into Ghost late, but there's a big backlash. But I mean, you can't if you don't get a ticket. Like when they go on sale in 15 minutes, you're not getting a ticket.
Yeah.
Like, that's that's just it. It's not like they're so bad. There's tickets available. They're playing big places, and if you don't get them in 5 minutes, they're gone. Right. So I think there's this relationship between a band becoming big and people. And if you get into a band early, there's nostalgia built in too, and it's hard to. You'll never. I don't care how good if you like 72 Seasons or not, but it's never gonna. For me, I like it, but will it ever make me feel like Master of Puppets does? No, it will not. Like it just never will. They're just two different animals. Sometimes I'll play that record, 72 Seasons, or I'll play one of the other ones, but it's never going to be the same as when I put in Lightning or Puppets, right? For me, your cat got a cat like that. So I had that. So were these bands that have this longevity, but like people get off the train. Def Leppard was mentioned earlier. A lot of people like, hey, I get to Power Mania and then I'm off the train, right? Or Iron Maiden is a little bit like that. I have friends that like, because of the certain era, like, post Power Slave or maybe Seventh Son, and then they're done. Like Metallica's had Springer Records, and I bet there's good stuff in there somewhere, but it's very difficult for people sometimes to, get past the stuff that was really great, the Power Slaves and all of that. And they're like, okay, so Power Slave, Seventh Son, and then I'm done. I can't, I'm sort of over it. So I think Metallica I put in that category of these huge bands that, no matter what they do now, they'll have detractors, right? Because they were just too big. I mean, Guns N' Roses is a little like that. I mean, they'll still play stadiums in South America and 200,000 people or whatever. But they catch a lot of flack for, they're just living off, maybe some people say live off one record, right? Or maybe 1.5 records. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the first band. I picked Metallica, but it's really a category, and then the second band I had was Winger, and Butch was very good about covering that topic as well. I mean, obviously one of the best from a talent standpoint bands of the era. And sort of had the pop culture thing, the Beavis and Butthead thing you mentioned, and the Lars and the Darts and all that. But some of it was self-inflicted, right? I mean, the decision to be on the cover of Playgirl was not awesome, right? Like if you're trying to be legitimate as a rock star or want to have some legitimacy, like Kip Winger on Playgirl is not probably the best thing to do. Like it just probably added fuel to the fire of the hate. But a lot of unnecessary hate around Winger. But I'll replace that with this band, sort of a band that gets a lot of flack, and not necessarily a great band, but like probably gets more flack than they probably should, and that's our friends Kingdom Come. Okay,
good pick.
And Kingdom Come, obviously, they everybody knows the debut record, and the song is very reminiscent of Zeppelin, and that's the extent of what most people know. Oh, Kingdom Come, the Zeppelin ripoff band. They opened Van Halen's Monsters of Rock summer of whatever, 88. And, I think they got put into this thing as this band when, like, are they great? No. But are they better than just being a one-off Zeppelin clone band? Yes. I mean, Lenny Wolf comes from Stone Fury. I mean, Stone Fury has some good material, and then Kingdom Come continued to put out records. I mean, I think this one, the In Your Face record, the follow-up there, is a really strong hard rock record. Good record.
Killer.
But anybody says Kingdom Come, you go, oh, they're the Zeppelin ripoff guys. I think they get probably an unnecessary amount of hate. I think that if people that are into this kind of music explored the catalog beyond that, they will find that there's much more to like than dislike. You know, you may never like the debut, you may never like Get It On or whatever, but there's much more to like, I think, within the Kingdom Come catalog than there is to dislike. So that was my second one, and then
Hey, Dave,
yeah,
can I just want to tack on and
sure.
to ask you and everyone here actually, like, when's the, other than Get It On, which has the obvious Kashmir influence and what Love Can Do, which I think has a lot of Zeppelin through it. Like, I don't know when the last time anyone here listened to the debut all the way through, but I went back to it sometime in the last couple of years, and I was like struck by actually how little I think that record, it's not near as Zeppelin like as I remembered it being at the time, or the shit that they took for it, because I don't know, it leaned more like hard rock AOR in spots than, yeah, there's those couple of Zeppelin-y things, but other than that, like, I don't think it's as blatant as people. I think people have it built up in their minds that it's more Zeppelin than it is, and I don't know. What do you? I don't know. You guys?
I blame Kerrang for that, because they went. I mean, you spoke earlier about Winger and the impact of the media. Well, Kingdom Come were branded immediately by Kerrang as Led Zeppelin ripoffs, and I just think it stuck. I don't think people gave them a chance.
I remember them getting called Kingdom Clone.
Kingdom Clone.
Yeah, exactly.
Kingdom Clone.
Yeah, and I think the problem was that the Get It On was the single and it was on MTV every hour, and it was just in everybody's face, right? And I think that's what most people remember, is that, because that's in the ballad was the other single, I think, that had the video. So the songs that were the most Zeppelin-y were the ones that were on the radio, on heavy rotation, on MTV at the time, and I think that's where, but to Butch's point, you know, it's not a Zeppelin album front cover to cover, right? I mean, there's a couple. It's like calling Dynasty a disco record. I mean, there's a couple of, to use the analogy you used, I mean, there's a couple things that are very Zeppelin-y, right? And maybe Get It On's a little blatant, but I think beyond that, it's not like that. And you know, and I think the rest of their catalog, you know, as particularly the follow up to that, I mean, I think is just straight ahead hard rock, melodic, good stuff, you know, for people that are into that kind of music, right? So if you're looking for something, people out in the internet world, you know, revisit Kingdom Come. So, and then lastly, I'm gonna, again, another, divisive thing, because why not? I like hate mail. And almost maybe a category too. You know, bands that had like complete left turns career wise, and when I think of the band that got me thinking, that was Van Halen, right? I mean, Van Halen, certainly the Hagar years of Van Halen, hugely successful, very commercial, big tours, big hate. A lot of people very, very hateful of this era, right? And I think, when a band changes singers or evolves so dramatically, and there's that, and I think that. So I think I guess the point is, I think that whether you like that or preference, right? You may not like that keyboard heavy poppy stuff, right? But I think most people that don't like Van Hagar, at least that I talk to, don't hate Sammy Hagar. Like, I just like my Sammy Hagar by itself. Put him in Van Halen. So it's not a Sammy Hagar thing. It's like, I like my Van Halen and I like my Sammy Hagar. I just like them separate. It's kind of like how I feel about Whitesnake and Vi. That's a whole nother thing. Like my I like them separate. I like Whitesnake, like Vi separate. But I think not really a Hagar thing, because a lot of people are like, I like Hagar. He's good. He's a talented singer, but in Van Halen, I don't like it. So I think that and to a lesser degree, when I was thinking about this, was Genesis, right? I mean, Genesis with Phil Collins on vocals, I mean, Invisible Touch is way different than early Peter Gabriel stuff. I mean, the whole evolution of the band. And so some people really, purists, or people, really, maybe there's a lot of hate for the Invisible Touch, We Can't Dance era of Genesis, because they're really into the heavier proggy stuff and the Peter Gabriel and the Steve Hackett and that era of Genesis. And I think, so bands like that, I think maybe get an unnecessary amount of hate, because there's really nothing wrong with the Hagar era of Van Halen or the 80s Genesis, right? It's just that because it's lumped in with the rest of the catalog, and really, if you played those records to an alien, they might tell you that's two separate bands, right? They're so different. And so it's really, I think that's my final point is really that it's sort of in that group is that these bands that have these big swings, usually by changing singers, have caused a lot of unnecessary hate and overshadowed maybe some value that the music has, because there's been this dramatic shift, right, where the band actually really sounds like two different bands, right? So anyway, that's my third one. There is the sort of the Genesis Van Halen, big shift.
One I wanted to mention, though, that no one here mentioned, I don't know if they ever got a lot of backlash, but they had people, you liked a certain era of this band, and then they changed, then everybody bailed. You have to talk about, what about Rush? When they did, went totally keyboard heavy. I mean, that turned off a lot of people.
It turned me off.
Turned me off at the time. I like it now, but
I've never gone back, to be honest. But
there you go, Parrish. He's on that list. Check that box.
I don't hate them though, and I wouldn't give them any stick for what they did, because a bit like Genesis and Van Halen and Queen and other bands, you have to evolve. You can't stay doing the same thing forever.
Yep.
So you do have to evolve, and some bands do it very well. And yes, they do lose some of their fan base, but then they get a new fan base, and sometimes a bigger fan base as a result of it. So I have no criticism of Rush doing what they did. I'm just not into keyboards, so as a result of that, they lost me. But
and Genesis's prog cred gets dragged down by Phil Collins' solo career, which is definitely less. I mean, Invisible Touch and We Can't Dance, there's still some big prog moments on both of those albums that kind of get overlooked by Genesis. I mean, Domino and Driving the Last Spike and Fading Lights, those are good epic songs.
Again, a confession time, I prefer the 80s Genesis to the 70s Genesis.
Me too. I've already confessed that before. The 83 album is my favorite Genesis record.
I like Trick of the Tail because it's that sweet spot right in between the two.
The thing about Genesis in the 80s is that they had honed their craft in so well that they could write perfect pop songs.
Yeah.
I think they took prog as far as they could go. Let's face it, the whole prog thing was dying. They had to do something. But they were such good songwriters. And then a lot of people don't realize, they always think that Phil Collins was the one with all the ballads and sappy stuff. Mike Rutherford wrote most of that stuff. He was the one.
Follow You, Follow Me is a Mike Rutherford song.
Yeah. So Phil gets a lot of, I think they need to give Phil a break.
Yeah.
It wasn't Phil. Just because he had a popular solo career, okay, good for Phil.
It overshadows the fact that he's one of the greatest drummers of all time, and he never gets included as like in the top 5, and he absolutely should. For some reason, John Bonham gets placed. I mean, Phil Collins, the most complex drummer. Yeah, I'll put him up against Neil Peart. The thing about
like Neil Peart, but if you hear Phil playing like in his prime, he has a certain tone. I'm going to say tone, but a certain, I guess, technique that you can hear that and go, oh, that's Phil playing that. Or a certain drum sounds like Neil Peart. You hear Neil play and you go, well, that's Neil Peart.
And Phil's playing left hand too, which is makes for a unique sound.
Yeah. But just picking up on something David said about bands, maybe the more popular the band becomes, the more hate they get. And today it was published, the 25 most popular tourist artists of the 21st century based on number of tickets sold. Right? Top of the, and this is of any artist. So top of the list. Who do you think top of the list is?
Taylor Swift.
No.
Rolling Stones.
No, Taylor Swift is number 5. She may have made more money, but on actual tickets sold, Rolling Stones number 12.
Oh, I knew this answer, but now I can't remember.
The number 1 is Coldplay.
Oh wow.
Oh, maybe I didn't know that.
25 million tickets sold
Coldplay?
around the world.
It's a lot of people
Coldplay.
with
How
bad
much flack
musical
do they
taste.
get? They get loads of flack, don't they? Loads of people don't like it. Number 2, this will please you, Andrew. U2, 20 million.
And all of those people got a really good show. They were
Number 3, so that starts to move it away from rock. So number 3 is Ed Sheeran, 19.5 million. So whether you like Ed Sheeran or not, and I don't, you've got to give him credit to be out there touring and bringing in the people to live gigs.
Yeah.
Number 4, Dave Matthews Band. I don't know them.
Dave Matthews Band still? Wow.
Well, of all time, but they had that jam band following.
19.5 million ticket sales this century. And I don't know anything about Dave Matthews. He never made it over here. But I know he's not very well liked. A lot of
there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know why people don't like it.
A Deadhead type following.
Number 5's Taylor Swift with 18.8 million.
All right.
Number 6 is Springsteen, which we've spoken again about some of the hate he gets. 18.6. Kenny Chesney, no idea who that is.
Country guy.
Country pop, yeah.
18.2 million. Number 8 is Metallica, 15.6 million tickets sold. So makes the point about how big a band they are. Number 9 that nobody's mentioned, and I suspect that we stayed off this band because we now know that that Grant's a big fan of this band. So number 9's Bon Jovi.
I knew it was coming.
13.9 million.
Well, I do like that Crush album. I like Crush.
I know you do, yeah.
I did like that record.
I mean, the other thing that's interesting is the number of sort of rock, kind of rock or rock adjacent type artists in there. I mean, the other one that was quite interesting, and I guess it's because they're always touring, was Iron Maiden at number 19.
Yeah, good for them.
10 million tickets sold.
I would have thought they would have been higher, but
yeah, I mean, you cannot get an Iron Maiden ticket 10 minutes after it goes on sale.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ghost isn't in that list?
No. If I've just finished the list then, so 10 was Elton John, 11 is Pink at 13 million, Rolling Stones at 12.5 million, Beyonce at 11.8 million, Andre Rayo, I don't know who that is, 11.5 million, Madonna at 10.9 million, Guns N' Roses 10.7, Eagles 10.2, Fish, and I don't mean the Marillion singer, 10.2 million, Iron Maiden 10 million, Luke Bryan, again I don't know who he is, 10 million, Roger Waters 9.8 million, Paul McCartney 9.3 million, Toby Keith 9.3 million, Billy Joel 8.9, and maybe a bit of a surprise at number 25 is Depeche Mode at 8.7 million.
Wow.
I think Iron Maiden's always interesting case, right? I mean, how well they do touring and continue to do without really having a bona fide hit, right? I mean, most of those bands that he listed at some point had a big crossover general public kind of hit. Like, you may not be a Bon Jovi fan, but I can find anybody on the street and they know "Living on a Prayer," right? I mean, it's
everybody would know that.
I don't care what you know it, right? I mean, virtually all those bands had a "Living on the Prayer" moment, except Iron Maiden, right?
Well, I mean, the thing I would add though is it'd be interesting to see the geography of this, because I bet you Iron Maiden, a lot of that South America. I mean, they just sell out on the huge stadium concerts in South America.
Could be.
It's really interesting that you don't see AC/DC, Aerosmith, or Journey on that list.
But you know why? It's because
you don't have AC/DC on there.
Yeah, because they've only toured twice, haven't they? I think.
I guess so.
Century.
Yeah.
3 times. Black Ice was a big tour. Rock or Bust fell apart because of Brian going and Axl Rose coming in, and even though I think that was a pretty good concert, I mean, half the tickets were given back, so it was like half full stadium. And then the one they're doing now. So they've only toured 3 times, whereas how many times have Iron Maiden toured every year?
Yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, Bon Jovi, until his voice went, he was touring every year. Metallica toured pretty regularly, so does Springsteen.
Well, Todd Rundgren's going out all the time paying for that house in Hawaii. He has to tour.
And some of them are obviously because they're playing stadia, but some of them aren't. Like Maiden aren't generally playing stadia. And Depeche Mode, I wouldn't have thought would be. So
Maiden's
think that
playing
they would
20,
be.
16, 20,000 seaters over here.
Yeah. And it sells out in a heartbeat, in a wink.
Yeah.
No,
as you say, a lot of
Megadeth, huh? No Megadeth.
Megadeth is playing like small places, man. They're playing like the 5,000 cap tops.
And you think about it, I mean, Taylor Swift's fifth, but 18.9 million, but she's probably only been touring for about a third of the 2000s, isn't she? If that, maybe only a quarter of it. So probably if you pro-rated it, well, somebody like Coldplay they started, didn't they, right at the beginning of the century? So
yeah. All right.
It's interesting how many of those bands you could say get a lot of flack though, and yet I guess the takeaway with most of these bands is they probably don't give a shit, do they?
No, they're just cashing their checks.
They're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, it's always funny when people are like, "I'm throwing all their records out," and the band doesn't give a shit. You already bought it, man. Do what you want with it. They don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I guess we can wrap this dog up, boys. You good? Anything else? All right.
Good.
Yeah,
oh, there you go. You like music discussions? This is the big daddy of music discussions. If you'd like to be on these shows, we'd love to have you. We have a Patreon. Join that if you'd like to support the channel. If that's too much for you to take, we have a Ko-fi. Buy us a pint or a cup of coffee. We'd appreciate that. We've got merch down below. We've got just more shows coming up. Please like, subscribe. Just do your part. All right, everybody. Andrew, Butch, Parrish, David, excellent discussion. We do want to know what you think down below. What bands you think, maybe aren't getting a fair shake. All right.
Before we go, can I just say this episode's called Why All the Hate Bands That Get Unnecessary Flack. It's not contrarian guests that get unnecessarily amount of flack. I just want to say that before we close off and before people start commenting underneath.
Oh, we're all getting it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I guess they would argue it was necessary, wouldn't they? So.
All right, kids. It went long, but still a good discussion. It's all about the discussion. All right, gentlemen. We will see you. See everybody.
All right.
See everyone.